I feel like Las Vegas is my annoying little brother, and every time I complain about it, it's totally fine, it's normal. But if you start complaining about Vegas, I'd be like, "What'd you say about my brother? You want to say it again?" That's what I thought.
Welcome to the Love Siren Podcast, your weekly dose of enchantment for the modern romantic. I'm Dahlia, your queer, poly, feminist witch, guiding you into your most magnetic, irresistible siren self. If you're craving ocean-deep love, delicious confidence, and results that last, you've just unlocked the right portal. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it.
I think the majority of people, when they think spirituality, I feel like they tend to think about like yoga retreats in a forest. And I think that Vegas can feel like the exact opposite of spirituality, but I think it's like shadow work dressed in a sequined bodysuit. Because sometimes spirituality can look like temptation, pleasure, mirrors, desire, and transformation. It is absolutely crazy for me to say this, but I have been living in Las Vegas for just about 2 years now, which is, I don't know, crazy. It's crazy to think that this place where I genuinely thought I was only going to spend a couple of months, all of a sudden I'm here for literal years. It's just crazy. But I think that when I tell people that I live in Las Vegas, they have this impression that Vegas is very superficial, that it's greedy, that it's completely fake, it's soulless. I cannot tell you how many times I hear about how it's soulless. And I just have such a different take because to me, this city really is a magnifying glass. It's a magnifying glass on people's desires, their addictions, their fantasies, their loneliness, their masks, and again, their shadow selves. So first thing first, we have to talk about the magic and power of reinvention. And one of my favorite things to note is that so many people in this city have stage names. So you can think about Dita Von Teese, Piff the Magic Dragon, Chris Angel. This is very embarrassing, but I watched a movie called David Copperfield, and I was like, why isn't there any magic in this movie? And then I discovered that it's actually a Dickens novel. Maybe I should edit that out. I do want you to think I'm smart. To me, choosing a name is one of the easiest and fastest ways to embody an identity or an archetype. So you may know, but my previous stage name was Porcelain Dahlia. And she's so hard to explain sometimes. She's honestly like her own podcast episode. The only reason why I don't use the name Porcelain Dahlia anymore is in part when I was doing stand-up comedy. Porcelain Dahlia, when I would get introduced, people were just very confused by that. They didn't understand my persona. They thought that like, I don't know. It wasn't right for doing stand-up comedy. But also Porcelain Dahlia uses she, her pronouns and I don't. And it would be inauthentic to ask her to use they, them to make me feel better. Because like genuinely, I see her so separately from myself. I genuinely think she's a goddess that she just like happens to occasionally come into my human body form and take over. And I used to feel this way about her even when I was like in my like very scientific atheist phase. Like I don't know. I think that I've always been witchy even when I was in full denial about it. But anyway, there is a concept of a witch's name, and this is a name that you keep to yourself. Nobody knows it because they can take advantage of it. So this is something that you just have for yourself. And if you don't have one yet, I would love to encourage you to create one. I like to think of the witch's name as like, this is your most powerful part of yourself. This is your highest self. This is the self that you want to embody. This is the self that you enact whenever you want anything to happen. So I kind of think of it like this is your fingerprint to kind of explain to the universe, like, this is me. This is like what I want you to do. I want you to protect me. I want you to shower me with abundance. Like all of these things. And choosing your name can be such a powerful act because it's declaring to the universe and it's declaring to yourself that you want to embody this particular version of yourself. I think that this also comes from being queer because it is so normal in the queer community to choose your own name. And it's something that I wish that more people felt encouraged to do. Like your parents did like a draft one, you know? And if they got it right on the first try, amazing. But I feel like I know so many people who don't resonate with their names, but they're just kind of like, I'm stuck with it. It's fine. And you're not. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can also just try on the name just for a weekend. If you're coming to Vegas for a weekend, just like try being a Veronica for the weekend. Try being a Benjamin. It could be anything. I also just want to make sure that I say that it might feel fake at first, but it also might just be a rehearsal for your future self. Very similar to an affirmation that feels just a little bit too out of reach, but then once you embody it, it starts to become just part of your narrative. For me, I really did not know if Love Siren Witchery was the correct name, but now that I have put in so much energy and time and myself and money, blah, 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 into it, of course it's the correct name. It didn't feel right at first, but that was because it was just in that very neutral space. It needed me to inject the spirit into it for it to come to life. I think a lot of stage performers can relate to the feeling of needing to put on a persona, even if it's just an exaggerated version of yourself. Like my comedy mentor is very much just this like snarky uncle kind of archetype, both on and off stage, but it is definitely amped when he is on stage, of course. So changing your name is one of the easiest and fastest ways that you can kind of get into that headspace to help you create that transformation. Also, fun fact, Vegas used to be underwater thousands of years ago, and now it's the Mojave Desert. What is more transformational than going from an ocean to a desert? Like, if Las Vegas can do that, you can do anything. Vegas's catchphrase is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So you get this permission slip that you get to try on a new identity. And sometimes I do think that that can be used poorly, of course. People use it as an excuse to get excess drunk or be irresponsible. Very similar to New Year's, which I hate. But sometimes it gives people permission to be present, to just enjoy their weekend away from responsibilities. And I find that oddly meditative. Vegas is also built on desire. It gives this advertisement of money and sex and luxury and excitement and escape, all of this stuff. And I think that people, again, like they think of that as the opposite of spirituality, but spirituality isn't the absence of desire. Desire is your compass for what you want to accomplish in this world. And again, I think people can feel a lot of shame when they desire something. People see the excess of Vegas as being very wasteful. Like people see the Bellagio fountain as wasteful, but it uses non-potable well water and it just kind of recycles itself. Like they never think about the golf courses that actually are the leech on our system. They always think about like what's directly in front of them and like what's kind of flaunting in their faces. And I think the same can be said for our desires. Like if you desire to make a lot of money in this life, people can judge you for that. They can judge you for being selfish. They can think that you're not going to use your money for good or like that money is going to corrupt you. People will think of that money as the equivalent of the Bellagio fountains and completely ignore the billionaires who are the actual golf courses, right? Like more than likely, if you are listening to this podcast, you are too good of a person that you probably will never become a golf course. And it's okay for you to want a little extra to feel comfy, to feel excited, to be able to invest in yourself and other projects that you believe in. But I know so many people in my life who vilify money, who see it as the root of all evil. And it means that they are subconsciously rejecting money because it directly interferes with their inner definition of themselves. So if your inner definition is I'm a good person and you see money as evil, then of course that's going to contradict itself. Very similar to if you think of yourself as a hard worker and somebody is like, hey, do you mind staying late and finishing this project? It might be really hard for you to say no because it directly contradicts what you think about yourself. I mentioned earlier about how I think Vegas is great for shadow work. And as a small refresher, shadow work is created by Carl Jung and it explores the unconscious, repressed, and denied parts of the personality. It involves acknowledging hidden traits like anger, jealousy, or insecurity to achieve wholeness and reduce self-sabotage, often by exploring childhood wounds or emotional triggers. See, I am smart. So Vegas is perfect for this because Vegas exposes our addiction, it exposes our ego, our desperation, and power dynamics. To me, spirituality that ignores darkness is incomplete. Vegas forces you to confront your impulses. It pulls out of you what your authenticity actually is in its ability to be fake. And it really pushes your self-control. One of the more sad parts about living here is I love the Las Vegas airport. It's so convenient. Truly the best airport I have ever had as my local airport. But one thing that's wild is when I'm leaving, so like when everyone else is like finishing their vacation in Vegas, the vibe of the airplane, instead of when I come home and people are like starting their vacation in Vegas, they're very different. And again, I think people got to experience what it was like to just be present in that moment. And now they're kind of experiencing the consequences of their actions for better or worse. Maybe they learned something from this experience and they can take that back with them when they go home. But if they weren't pushed to their limits like Vegas does, then they would have never learned those lessons. One day, I'm going to have buckets of money in this business, and I am going to put an advertisement in the Las Vegas airport with these journal prompts. They are, who do you become when you're in Vegas? What gets amplified? What do you indulge? And what do you avoid feeling? I think all of these questions, would just help people out a lot. This whole episode, I've really focused on the strip culture part of Vegas because I think that is typically what people think of. And now I really want to shift into what my experience as a local has been like here. So one of the weirder things about Vegas is that there's no designated gayborhood, which is just so vastly different than other cities that I've lived in before, where it's like, clearly this is where I'm safe. This is where I'm going to be seen. This is where I feel at home. And Vegas just doesn't have that. And my theory as to part of the reason why it doesn't have that is because this is the wild, wild west. And gay people have been coming here for a very long time, specifically because of the lawlessness nature of this place. And so there wasn't the same need to carve out neighborhoods for queer culture like there was in other cities. This is a place for weirdos to go and not feel weird. I also should admit that, I have spent the first 12 minutes of this podcast talking about the strip, but I honestly don't really go that much. I really only go when I have friends in town or I want to go see a show. But really, the biggest draw to me and Vegas is the nature. I can't even describe how alien it is, especially growing up in New England where there are giant forests. To come to a place that is just barren but still has so much life is, I don't know, it's incredible. And I feel like I sound like such a stoner when I say this, but like there's just like so much sky here. Like I know that the sky is just as big in New England, but there's something about having this kind of like endless horizon in the desert that just makes the sky feel gigantic. And it's so quiet because, again, I grew up in forests, which have like leaves rustling and insects and birds. Like there's always noise that's happening. And it's very peaceful, it's very beautiful, but there's noise. And there's something about coming to the middle of the desert and having it be quiet and having that just feel so unnatural and weird, and I can finally actually listen to myself. Oh my God. I'm obsessed. Especially if you are a person who has a lot of open centers in your human design, going into the quiet of the desert, it's so refreshing. And you really just notice how much energy you give to other people. It's also really important to note that part of the reason why I ripped up my life in Los Angeles and everything that I had started to build there was because I really wanted a cheaper cost of living. And I'm able to live alone for the first time in my entire life. One of the weirdest things about Los Angeles is that only 50% of the apartments have refrigerators. I'm pretty sure that they have now since passed a law that landlords must provide refrigerators, but like it was chaos, right? Where like half of your apartments would have one and then half wouldn't. And so then if you bought one but then moved to a different apartment that already had one, then you just had this fridge. Like it was just so confusing and a terrible system. And what I love about Vegas is like of course I have a fridge. I also have in-unit washer dryer, which is like unheard of for New England or New York. And I just have so much space. Like I really feel like I live like royalty out here, again, especially compared to where I grew up. And the libraries, oh my gosh. If you know me in real life, you know I am obsessed with the Las Vegas libraries. They have incredible programming for all ages, including like adults only education. And there are just so many branches that all have their own unique flavor and personality and programming. A lot of them have museums that are featuring local artists. There are 25 branches in Las Vegas, which like compared to Boston, there's 26 in the Boston Public Library system, which like, I don't know. I think that might be comparing apples and oranges. But I do think that it's incredible in Boston, which we think of as very intellectual, very school focused, and Vegas, which we don't. The fact that they have the same number of libraries, I don't know. I think that's incredible. This is a little bit turning into a Vegas gush session, so I think I'm going to go back on topic about spirituality. So Vegas can absolutely be exploitive and predatory, and I don't want to take away from that. But again, I really don't think of spirituality as pretending that darkness doesn't exist. We are these incredible spiritual beings that are in this very human experience. And addiction is incredibly human. And Vegas, oh my God, Vegas teaches you energetic discernment immediately. You either learn your boundaries, you learn grounding, and you learn your self-awareness, or this city is going to eat you alive. But the other piece of this is Vegas just amplifies who you already are. If you already do struggle with addiction, then Vegas is just going to amplify that. And it will either help you recover, it will help you identify the problem and get through it, or you might succumb to it. This city does not hide human nature. It puts it in neon lights. And I think that that's why Vegas feels very intense for people, because it forces you to confront who you actually are. The amount of people that I have heard say how soulless Vegas is, I don't know. I think it's crazy to me because to me, the city is teeming with so much soul. Again, the Mojave Desert is so stunning. And I think when we think desert, we assume like the big sand dunes of Egypt, but there's so much life here. There's all of these different kinds of plants. I've even seen a fennec fox in real life, which is like the coolest thing ever to me. And there are barren parts that are really stunning in their own way. There's one part where I genuinely feel like I am on the moon. It's so cool. There's also just so many weirdos out here that are able to build such incredible things. One of my favorite things, it's actually in Pahrump, which is 45 minutes outside of Vegas, but we're going to count it. It's called Coffin Wood, and it's basically this guy that's just obsessed with coffins. And so you get to go to his property and you can see the coffin gazebo that he made, the coffin greenhouse, the coffin water wheel. It's absolutely stunning and so cool. And it's just so much fun to see somebody who just like pours their heart and soul into something and have that feel not performative, which I think is what I've experienced, especially in LA. I loved my weirdo art scene in Boston where nobody was really worried about being discovered or who was going to see it. We just kind of made the scrappy art that we wanted to make. And I think that in LA, especially in the stand-up comedy scene, I think that I really saw people just try so hard. And of course they did. And there's a lot of great artists in LA. But there's something about the desert weirdos. My God, I just relate to it so much. I mentioned previously that I am a Hades devotee, and I really feel him a lot in this city. It could be explained that I became a devotee while I was living here, but of course, like playing cards are associated with him, dice is associated with him. Even our sports team has his helmet of invisibility as their logo. And again, one of my favorite things that Hades teaches me is that life is meant to be experienced. One of my more disempowering beliefs about Vegas is that I kind of see it as limbo because a lot of people I know are here until they move on to the next thing. Not a lot of people call this place home. And I can really feel that transitional energy that is here. It feels like you are meant to learn your lessons. It might take longer than you expected them to, which it has in my case. But whatever comes next for you, you're going to be so much more prepared for. I also wrote a list of the most spiritual places in Vegas that people would never think of as being spiritual. So my examples are casino floors at 3 a.m., old neon signs that have that very specific hum that just takes over your entire body and reminds you how alive and how electric this city is. The desert at sunrise, oh my God, it's stunning. I'm also obsessed with how many wedding chapels we have here. Of course I do. I am a love witch. Late night diners. There are so many 24-hour places here. Ugh, I love it. I'm also going to add late night pedicure places, late night massage places, late night grocery stores. I love living in a 24-hour city. It is, it's so convenient. Hotel mirrors. They can be creepy, but they can also be so special. And then those liminal hallways that kind of like lead to ballrooms. Oh my God, if you get there like a little too late and there's no one around, whew, they're so weird. I love them. Okay, I think that's the end. I love this city. It has transformed me so much. And even though I think it can be a pain in the ass, like I said, it's an annoying little brother, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. I would also love to know if you feel energetically affected by Vegas. Again, I can't tell you how many people I've heard think that this city is soulless. But then when I take them out into the desert, they're like, oh, this is what it's all about. Thank you, as always, for being here. I absolutely adore you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode.